Welcome to Love Local, the podcast by Jennifer Cornish Design, where we spotlight the incredible independent businesses in Newbury and the surrounding areas. I'm your host, Jen, and each episode I'll be chatting with a local business owner to hear their story, how they started, the challenges they faced, and the creative and marketing decisions that helped them grow. Welcome to Love Local. On this week's episode, we're joined by Jenny from Aivilo. Welcome. Thank you for coming on today. Let's start with you telling us all about your business, how you got started and your background.
Okay. Thank you first of all for having me. So how did I start? My career has always been in finance. I left school and didn't go to uni, albeit that I was in a secondary school education there. You had to do a UCAS application, so I was a bit of an outlier. Went into telecoms in finance, or finance in telecoms, and started studying for my AAT qualification, which is the accountancy starter qualification. Soon realised that working in a telecom sector probably wasn't the easiest way to pass my exams. So I looked to start to work in a public practice, moved to an independent small practice. Then I moved to a top 100 firm. Then I moved to a top 10 firm, and then I moved to a top 20 firm, and I had a long tenure at top 20 firm, and it was there that I got the most experience. I had a really supportive boss, allowed me to be curious and get my hands into lots of different aspects of the business, including sort of marketing, digitalization. I was involved in projects for due diligence for acquiring firms. And then the last project that I was involved in was working on what we called the COVID response team. So that firm didn't want to be seen to be making any profit out of supporting its clients to manage to stay afloat during COVID through the financial difficulties. So we created a team whereby I predominantly spoke to small business owners, and that was my niche anyway. That was the type of clients I was working with. And I really realised how tricky it was working as a small business owner, and how much support they needed, more support than much bigger firms in the practice that I worked. So I got really true to who I wanted to work with, and sort of was a bit tired of the corporate world and the ladder that I was climbing there. So I went to work for an independent practice. That independent practice wasn't the right fit for me. They weren't digital. It felt like it was a step backwards. So then I thought, oh God, I've got to get another job now. And then I decided, well, what's there to lose? Let's try and work in my own firm. I actually spoke to a female founder of a pretty well-established business, relatively local, to get a job with her. And it was her that encouraged me she said, it's now or never. If you're thinking about it, do it now. So that was 3 years ago. Aivilo's in its fourth year. And I mean, ultimately, the decision to do it was based out of frustration and wanting to help the right clients that I wanted to work with, and knowing that, having a belief at the time, it was very much a belief that I could give a better service.
And at that point, did you have any clients? Were you doing a bit on the side? Because some businesses start with kind of a bit of dabbling in the freelance world. Yeah. Aside from their day-to-day, or did you have? No,
good question. I mean, you couldn't. So,
okay.
In the practice that I worked at, there was a lot of restrictive covenants, so non-compete, non-solicitation.
Oh, wow.
So it was really difficult to do anything like that. And to be honest, I did it really quickly. I was on holiday in the July, working at the job that I didn't really want to be at. And it was on that holiday I was having a phone call with the female founder. And I literally went down from the hotel room to join my girlfriends, and we made the name Aivilo on holiday. No word of a lie. I know it sounds really cliche. And they didn't like it. And a lot of people still don't like it, but I have a meaning behind it. And that was it. It was born. And at the end of August, the company was formed.
Yeah.
Because I work with accountants. I was employed by accountants. They're going to spot that I'm an owner of a limited company on the company's house. So you had to be quick and sharp to move.
Did you find that because that's quite hard to then start a company with almost having that restriction straight in place. Did you find that you did have an influx of clients come in because I could imagine it's a bit similar to me, or you say, tell people you're a web designer, you've got friends and family kind of going, oh, I need a website. Is that the similar sort of thing in going, oh, you've started this business and you had kind of an influx of people?
Yeah,
how did that work?
No. So I literally turned on the 1st of September. I remember turning on LinkedIn, and I used LinkedIn a lot beforehand. And I literally was like, I've started a business. And I was just direct messaging lots of people I knew, people I didn't know, but I was just mainly doing posts and just always firing into the comments. And then I just put myself out in there in networking. I'd already been an established networker in West Berkshire, so people knew my name, and people were like, wow, what are you doing? That's brave, that's courageous, really fed into my imposter syndrome. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
No.
But I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah. So you really channeled the networking side that you'd already kind of built up.
Yeah, very much so.
So talk me through that a little bit. What sort of networking have you done?
Gosh, all networking I've done over the years. I mean, I was thrown into networking by an old boss when I was very baby-faced, and I couldn't hold the room at all. I mean, we were talking 20 years ago when that room was predominantly made up of men in grey pinstripe suits.
Yeah.
And who was I to come and, have anything to say? But you quickly learn the room. You learn who is approachable and who isn't. And I would argue that female networking groups are far more approachable, but I think that we deserve to be in mixed spaces. So I can hold my own in those spaces now.
And do you think the networking has helped your business? So I know we talked about this on our first episode with Katie, who runs the Shire Collective. Networking can be a really daunting space for people to go into. How has that helped shape your business?
Oh, massively. So I appreciate it is a tough space. And sometimes, even now, I think, can I be bothered to go along? It's an effort. And when your social battery is pretty low as it is when, you're exhausted by client demands, to then go and have that conversation. But I mean, nowadays, the people that I network with are friends. So they know my personal life as much as they want to know about business life. And so it's much easier to go into that room and just, you find your tribe. And you can't be friends with everyone. You can't have a really wide network and service that whole network. So I think when you find your people, you kind of stick to them and they'll always want to support you.
And is that because you've got your business to a certain level now with regards to your good few years in? You know the benefit of networking, but you also know that leads come in through referrals and all things like that and other directions.
Yeah,
so you kind of are a bit more confident to know that the leads do come in.
Yeah.
As much as people are sat there thinking, oh my gosh, I've got a really quiet month, the next month you could be inundated with.
Yeah, quite. I mean, time's limited, right? And you have to look at things to go, what is this going to serve me? Is it going to serve the business? Is it going to serve me personally? Have I got, as a busy mum, you've always got other constraints and commitments to achieve. So I think you just look at things a little bit more intentionally to say, is it worth it? Okay.
Yeah.
That might sound a bit off, I suppose, but
no, I completely agree. I recently kind of left a networking group that I was committed to because it's the last year I have of my twins before they go to school, and it was on the only day that I have with them. So I had to really weigh up that kind of mum guilt a little bit to go, is this worth not seeing the boys on their last year before school?
Never.
Probably not. I'm never going to get that year back. So actually, let's pause the networking for a year. I can do that when they're at school. And that's really enjoying my Fridays with the boys.
Good on you.
I know. I do love it. Although they're carnage.
I feel like in my daughter's younger years, I was climbing the corporate ladder and I didn't realise it at the time. I was a lot younger then too. And I wish someone had told me at that time, you never get these years back.
Yeah. And it is, and even I think when you've got your own business, that's the joy of having, I had to kind of check myself a bit and go, I started my business for my kids and to be more available for my kids. And now I'm going to a networking group that's effectively taking me away from my kids. So it's all just having that reality check.
We've all done it though, I
know,
think.
Exactly. So talk me through one of your biggest challenges when you were setting up.
Biggest challenge when setting up, undoubtedly, biggest challenge for any taxpayer in the UK is HMRC, right?
Yeah.
So it was a quick startup. Unfortunately, as an agent, you have to have certain different types of codes and registrations.
Okay.
So I have to be licensed individually. My firm has to be licensed. They have to have separate agent access licenses for all different taxes. And some of them were taking longer than they should have done. I ended up reaching out to someone within my professional body, and they actually moved something at HMRC for me to get it done. And that was all because I didn't think I was going to be able to run my first client payroll. And we all know how important getting paid is.
Yeah.
So I was having a little bit of a panic. But yeah, I'd say that was standout. Although there were lots of things like in terms of choosing who my regulatory body is. So I'm dual qualified. And the reason for that is because that was another corporate sort of hoop to jump through. And I had to choose which body I wanted the practice to be licensed with, even though I would stay licensed individually with both of them. AML, risk assessments, using software, what software I was going to use. I'd worked in various firms using a wide range of software, so I was well placed to know a bit about all of them, but it was making sure that it was the right solution for me, my firm and my size. What else? Legal side of it, from insurance to all the different types of insurance and what insurance I'd need at that initial start, making sure it was covering sufficiently for the professional body. There was all sorts of challenges, and that was probably why, I mean, imposter syndrome was definitely a challenge, and that is probably why people were saying to me, what are you doing? Like people that in my professional world, solicitors and other accountants, like, this is a highly regulated market and you're going to do it all on your own shoulders. And I was like, yeah. Believe in me, please.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm amazed that you actually had people say that to you as well, because I think imposter syndrome is one thing, but then actually having those people flag it to you to be like, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
I think people mean well, but, you know, it's a tricky one because you know, in this area particularly, people do want people to succeed. I do find that lots of local businesses want to support other local businesses, and sometimes you just don't think outside of the box of doing it yourself, so it comes out in that way.
Yeah. I guess they mean well, don't they? Just probably maybe they're wanting to do it themselves and thinking, wow, how do you do it?
Yeah.
So I see accountancy as a real pillar in a business. I've been through my own journey with accountants, and I feel like it's a really personal service. If you're not necessarily that way inclined with the financial side, I do feel like it's similar to a website, really. You need to go to the professional straight off the back to kind of get things done properly.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people starting their business if they were looking for a service like yours? What should they look for? Because I mean, I know, thinking about my journey, I started with a friend that was an accountant, then I moved to a company that maybe wasn't as big as what I needed, then I've just moved to another company. So it's quite a disrupt when you're moving from accountancy company to accountancy company. So what advice would you give to people when they are starting out? Because I bet you probably get, a bit like me, people do their own websites. People can do their own accounts.
Yeah.
The thought of that absolutely terrifies me. What advice would you give to
I mean,
people?
I would say outsource everything you can nowadays. But let's be real, you haven't got a great deal of money at startup, have you?
No.
And my advice to a startup business would be different to my advice to a scaling business, so an established business. And actually, I work with a lot of established businesses that are moving away from their existing advisor, perhaps for different reasons. But to answer your initial question, so startup, I mean, the best advice would be to talk to professionals from the outset, and that's not just your an advisor in accountancy space or a bookkeeper, but you know, getting your design right, getting your name right, getting the domain name right, all these things that when you make a wrong decision, it takes some time to undo, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So from an accountancy's perspective, my first question would be, what's your startup funds? And how are you affording those? So are you using savings? Are you getting some sort of loan, startup loan, or alternative finance? Are you borrowing money from family and friends? Are you completely bootstrapping and going from the ground? And how much money then do you need to earn immediately to cover, and then working that out of how many hours you need to work, how many customers or clients you need to have, and getting really real on that. Also quite real on what your purpose is, because I think there are a lot of businesses, and social media does this to younger generations, that it looks like it's really glamorous, and there's a lot of risk and responsibility in running your own business. In fact, that area is being increasingly regulated, particularly from April 26. So I think I would, and I have challenged clients before. I've even challenged one client about their name. So I'm one to speak because my business name isn't the easiest to remember. But it was all a numbers and letters. And I said, no one can say that. What does it mean? What is it, So there's a business advisory aspect initially, I think, when you talk to a good small business accountant, that I'll definitely sort of not hold back on, I suppose.
And I think I didn't realise it is such a personal experience. So I think when you do speak to someone, you've really got to gel with that person, because you're going into the nitty gritty of your finances. You're going into like the whole aspect of your life and kind of what your future plans might be and what money you want to earn and stuff like that. So I would advise, going through the journey myself, is have a coffee with that accountant, have a chat with that accountant. You really have to gel with them, because I would almost say they're your kind of partner in crime to help you grow your business. They're probably your next port of call, alongside a web designer and a marketing person, really. Those are the two key people, your finances and your marketing, that I feel like you need to really establish connections with.
I'm pleased you've said that. I mean, it's tricky, because when the taxpayer has to comply with HMRC, so they see that as a burden, and so they don't necessarily see the added value that an accountant can provide to them. And that's the difference. If you're looking for a compliance only service, then you wouldn't get that with me. And you would get that perhaps on an online provider. And it's about setting and managing expectations. So absolutely having that first in-person talk. I have a contact form on my website that I ask prospects to complete. It's about 6 questions initially, so that it allows me to get a feel for them. It allows me to do a little bit of research if there's a company listed on the public register, and so that I can prepare for an efficient initial client meeting to make sure that I'm the right fit for them as much as they're the right fit for the firm. But you're absolutely right. You need to be a trusted advisor. You need to know, like, and trust anyone that's involved in your finances, not just your accountant. That includes your financial advisor. And I think it goes beyond that, is that my website and my delivery of my messaging and the clients that recommend me will talk to, hopefully, spread the word that I'm personable. The messaging, albeit subtle on my website, is about being human-led, proactive, personalised service, prompt, timely. These are all values that I uphold for the practice, but it was the reason why I formed the business, because when you work in corporate, you are timesheet driven. You are always budgeted for how much time you can spend on the phone to a client. And in COVID, that was including, how is Granny doing in hospital? Yeah. What's happening here? And you'd have other people around, you haven't got time to do that. And I would do it in my own time. So, I'd be changing my timesheet for that, because that's just the kind of person that I am. But our worlds as a small business owner are intrinsically linked between the business and personal life. So if you're not getting back to me and you said to me it's because one of your children was busy, or let's say December, right? Everyone is super manic. Yeah. They're spending more time in school looking at nativities all the Christmas bazaars and fairs and everything going on. I understand that. Whereas I think in a corporate world, it's so process driven, and particularly with the use of technology, that things are going out automatically. And the way I think small business will always win is through human relationships. Yeah,
exactly. And I couldn't agree more. If we take it back to your branding, your marketing and that journey, you talked about your name.
Yeah.
do you want to explain the background about your name and then what journey you've been on kind of setting up your business through your branding and marketing?
Yeah. So the name begins with A because I wanted it to be at the top of the directory listing, just to be easier. So it's not really
clever. I've never heard of that.
Not really that deep.
Yeah.
Strategic, perhaps. AI, because we use a lot of AI, and accountants have been using a lot of AI even without even realising, and probably lots of industries have for many years, 15 years now. And it's Olivia backwards, so just decided that was a name that I liked, and it has meaning to me personally, and actually almost Aivilo is its own person. And I say this to a lot of clients when they've got their own limited companies: you are the director and shareholder and the worker in the company, but the company also is its own entity, its own legal entity, but your values and the company values need to be aligned. But also I often think, I could do that. I could help that client. But Aivilo sits there and says, is that our values? Is that what we do? Is that commercially sensible? So she's got her own...
that's a clever way
identity.
To look at it, actually. Yeah, that is a really clever... And I always say to people, because obviously lots of people come to me with branding, is I always find the name the hardest thing. You've got to love the name. And... if you're doing a branding journey and starting out, ideally your logo needs to last you a good few years. So you've got to be in love with the name from the outset because it's your baby. And if you don't love the name, how are you ever going to be able to grow it? And then what about marketing wise? Did you have any struggles, anything you needed to overcome when you were starting out?
Not so much anything specific. Everything was a challenge to overcome. I enjoy a little bit of marketing. I've had a bit of experience in doing marketing, but it's not my area of expertise by any stretch. I used someone to support me with doing so, but the A in the name and the dash with the A is on purpose. That was my idea, although it was misinterpreted. So it's got a yellow through it. So the colours are specific, and they were my decision. Yellow is my favourite colour. Yeah. Yellow reminds me of the sun. I'm a summer baby. I would always want to be in a sunny disposition, despite it being pouring with rain today. Yeah. It just brings joy and happiness. And so I was really sure on it being the rich golden yellow that it was. And I wanted the line in the A to be going forward in an upward trajectory, and with a point as an arrow in that way to symbolise sort of growth. And then everyone said it's a pencil, and you're an accountant with a pencil.
Oh, wow. I definitely didn't see that.
Yeah. It's not a pencil. No. I use a computer. I don't use pen and paper.
Oh, that's annoying.
But I've stuck with it because I really like it. And actually I can use that logo, the letter, the A, as a logo as much as the company name as a logo. And it's quite versatile.
And that's all that matters. It's like what I said before. As long as you love it, it doesn't really matter. I have my brand colours because I love the teal. And I always say that to people. If I'm doing a branding project, I always ask them those questions. Is there any names you like? Any colours you like? What palettes do you like? Because I need to get inside your head to understand, okay, I need to produce you something that you're going to love, not just for now, but potentially 5, 10, 30 years time, that it continues through. Because rebranding's expensive. Like if you suddenly were to decide, actually, I'm going to change my name, actually, I'm going to change my colour scheme, you think about how many touch points that branding's on. It's on your logo, it's on your website, it's on your business card, it could be on signage, it could be on, it's on your social media, it's on everywhere. So it's really important to get it right and for you to love it going forward. So we've talked about your name and how you evolved your branding. What would you say one design or marketing decision that you made within your business has made a real difference for you?
I think the biggest difference that it's made is I was using a marketing, she's a business coach with marketing influence, and she said, draw out your client avatar. And I've got a couple of client avatars. And what that means is that when I was looking for business, if the client didn't look like the avatar that I drew out, then they weren't the right fit. And that wasn't just like a visual of who they are. It wasn't specific about gender, and some businesses are, and that works perfectly. But it was, where are they? Like, are they local? What platforms are they on? What communication channels do they use? What are their communication styles like? If they're going to get a service from me or be proactive and responsive, are they proactive and responsive too? Because it's a two-way relationship. And so then it became really intentional and really purpose-led, so that I could then talk about my values and how that would benefit a prospective client for them to, it's managing expectations and for them to get the service that they really wanted. Because if they just wanted compliance only, then they didn't really need Aivilo.
Yeah. And that is really, like I said, it goes back to that relationship thing, doesn't it? You want to have these clients that last for years and years and years, not just kind of in and out the door, if that makes sense. That's not the person, it doesn't sound like the person you are, it's not the person I am. I want to help these clients on their journey to build their business. So it's all about having that relationship with them. And I feel like sometimes when clients come to me now, I'm almost interviewing them before they interview me, if that makes sense, because I really want to enjoy the work I'm doing for them, and I really want to understand their values as their business that helps me then promote their business through design, through marketing and everything like that. Do you ever find a time that you've rejected clients? How, because we were talking before about how when you're starting your business, it's so easy to just take on anyone and everything to get the cash flow right. How's that journey been for you, doing that when you were starting out?
Yeah. So when I started out, the female founder that I had the telephone call with, she was like, do know your worth. You know what local competitors are pricing. And there is so much work going around. So there was no need to lowball. That wasn't a strategy. Because you end up, in my world, it's an annual service. So you've got that recurring income stream. So if you go in really low, it's going to take a long time to be able to do incremental price increases to get to where maybe a client now is coming on board. And it's about the value that you bring. So I was really sure on my pricing. I still have the same pricing structure from platinum down to bronze. So there's 4 different approaches. And I work out what type of client they are. And then I talk to them about what they would probably like in terms of what services they want. And they've got options. And yes, I've declined to work with clients before. I've said, and do probably more so now, that I'm not the right fit or I haven't got capacity. And it's at the moment, it's more I haven't got capacity. But I will always talk to someone. I will always give them my top tips. I had a client recently seeking some support going back for doing a voluntary disclosure for over 10 years. And I've done these before. I did it when I initially started because it was a really good piece of work. And actually it would be going forwards. But this particular piece of work was only time driven. And it wasn't a recurring income flow. So commercially, it wouldn't make sense for Aivilo to do it. But I knew exactly the person that could help. And that's the benefit of having a really big network now. If I can't help, I can refer out. So I feel like I'm adding value with saying... Without
actually even taking on the client, which is really amazing. And I think that person will remember that. So even if it's... And I am a strong believer of you put stuff out into the universe and it will come back at some point. So it might only be a 10-minute conversation and a couple of nuggets of advice that you give that person, but you don't know how many people that person is connected to that could then recommend the right person that sits within your avatar to come and then be an actual client of yours. It's all about, I feel like it's all about conversations and chatting to people. And that's what I love about running a business is getting to kind of chat to all the different people and understanding their journey and understanding what path they're on. Can I help them? Yes. Sometimes I can't, but hold on a minute. I know the right person that could potentially help them along their way. And that's what I think is amazing about running a business and getting connected to all those sorts of people.
Yeah, everything's an opportunity, isn't it? Yeah. And I think initially as a startup as well, my advice would be go out to every opportunity. because every conversation is potentially an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then at scale up, I would say to contrast that, be selective, find your tribe, and think about what opportunities serve you the most. So that it might be more about being visual, being invited to talk on a podcast, being invited to talk at conferences, so that you're consistently showing up, but you're not exhausting all of your time by having one-to-ones, which a lot of the networking groups recommend to do so. But by the time you've had a coffee for a one-to-one and the hour before and the hour after getting there and whatnot, that's half a day taken out.
Yeah, exactly. And it is hard because time is precious, especially if you've got kids and stuff like that, and trying to squeeze it all in is it can be a bit chaotic. What one bit of advice would you give to a business owner if they were just starting out? If they were starting their own, it can be their own accountancy firm, or just starting a business in general, what one bit of advice would you give?
I mean, starting your own accountancy firm, I would say speak to an accountant, someone like me, for sure. I'm in a big network of accountants that support other accountants to do so. I actually am listed on the ACCA as a mentor to support new upcoming accountants that want to have their own practices. But I think more widely would be to, I mean, it's cliche, but to network is to get out there and ask people for help. You can pay mentors for help later down the line when you're making money, but don't be afraid to ask people. If you're going to those sort of networking groups, I didn't really feel like I needed to, because I had a network, but I needed people available and willing to help me there and then. And when you're in networking groups, they want you to succeed, particularly in this area. I think we live in a really affluent area. People, I think, did I already say earlier about people want to buy local?
Yeah.
They want people to succeed. And so you'll go into working in a business and you'll need a designer, you'll need a marketer, you'll need a printer, you'll need an accountant, you'll need an insurance broker, you'll need, as you scale, perhaps an employment solicitor, or all those people. So if you get into those networks, there'd be plentiful and really within your reach, that not just one person, you could speak to a number of different people. And I'd always recommend that with speaking to an accountant, speak to more than one, get a feel and take the learnings from a conversation with one and ask the next accountant that before you sign on an engagement with an accountant that you might not quite feel is the right fit for you.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
If anyone wants to find out more information about your business, your LinkedIn profile is
Jenny Bowden, Jenny.Bowden.
And your website
is aivilo.accountancy.co.uk.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Love Local. If you're a small business owner in Newbury or the surrounding area and you've got a story to tell, I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to follow, leave a review, and share it with someone who'd love it too. Thanks again for listening. I'm Jen, and I'll see you again on the next episode of Love Local.